So today I wanted to talk about one particular belief that releasing this is very liberating, and on the other side of that, sorry, I'm a bit sick currently. On the other side of that, you also see how it's really at the root of all struggle, all your suffering, all your problems, everything that, really kind of gets us feeling stuck. Maybe. I can't say entirely, but let's dive into the belief. So, it's the feeling that you need to know where you're going and act like you need to know, right? So if somebody asks you, like, what are you doing with your life? You'll see how we generally quickly try to splurge out an identity, a life path, a plan, and people get very identified with this. And then this causes so much struggle and suffering when the continuously disruptive, and it's only disruptive because we try to place this kind of linear imagined path on top of reality, but then reality comes along and disrupts everything because things are naturally in flux, things are naturally impermanent, right? The nature of what is to come next is completely unknowable, and yet the human society that we find ourselves in places all value on the ability to act like you know what's going on, pretend like you've got it all together, right? Pretend like you know exactly who you are, where you came from, where you're going, what this external reality is. And it's fucking bizarre when you see through this illusion, right? I was just walking on the beach earlier and allowing myself to kind of get absorbed in the experience of the moment, right? Really diving into what am I actually seeing here, right? Without all the labels, right? Where is it, right? So looking out at the horizon, there was the water and the sky and like looking all around me, and I'm like, this whole experience is so vastly unknowable, yet we act as humans like, and here's the problem, right? When I say we act, the problem is it's not even really acting. It's not a conscious acting, right? We get so caught up in the conceptual world, in our thought-based reality around me, my life, my problems, how am I going to solve my problems, where am I going, problem. We get so caught up in that we live in this conceptual world, and it's just not what's really going on, right? Because the reason that conceptual world is constantly about putting out fires is because it's something that we've like pasted on top of this vastly unknowable, constantly in flux mystery. And basically it's not to say that reality is not true, because you can go on like a bypass and find yourself trying to escape from the conventional reality, right? I can say this because I've done this myself, where it was like this quest to keep on awakening to the deepest level. I was trying to avoid the challenges of the human realm, to put it right, human interactions, relationship, financial, like jobs, works, all of this kind of stuff. There's juice in that. And what I mean by juice is that we try to avoid that because it's going to pull out the resistance patterns that are at a subtler level, if that makes sense. Like we can work through resistance a lot, and then it's incredible how much resistance can still be hidden that comes to the surface when we really put ourselves into challenging environments. Like I noticed this recently with like travel and relationship and all these kind of things. I've worked through a lot, and some deep stuff continues to arise. Resistance, getting lost in the conceptual world again. Feeling helpless, feeling stuck, feeling lost. And I knew this a while back. That's why I've done these traveling trips the last 2 years. It's just to throw myself into the unknown. And then, but it's about balance as well, right? It's about respecting the human dimension, in the sense that I could feel when I actually needed a little bit more stability in my life again. I could feel that throwing myself into this constant instability was actually overwhelming my nervous system. And so but you want both perspectives. So what I'm saying here is, like, then when I realize that, then I come back, look into options where there's more stability again. And then I got sick as well. And then the other day I was just sitting and I was like, the problems that you were stuck in change like this, right? There was like a couple of weeks back, I was in an environment that I found very challenging, and now that's gone. And then this current environment has its pros and then its cons. But I know that it's just constantly changing, right? It's vastly mysterious. I have no idea a week down the line what I'm going to find myself in, right? Maybe it's a exciting situation, maybe it's a challenging situation. But it's this not needing to know exactly where I'm headed, right? I have some ideas of what my plans might be in the future, how I'm going to try and make some money here, how I'm going to try and make some money there. And I will naturally go down these avenues, but there's no clinging to, I know exactly where I'm headed and how it's all going to play out, because we're setting ourselves up for disruption then. And we need that, right? That disruption is powerful. But it's why there's such contrast between the chaotic periods of life and the seemingly periods of life where things are flowing well. It's because we get attached to this kind of need to know where I'm going. When you can surrender that need and that belief, that's what's key, right? Because at its core, it's a belief. It's that it's not a conscious thing that we know that we're doing all the time. It's a subconscious belief that we've all, kind of passed on to each other. Who knows where it started? That you need to portray to other human beings that you know where you're going with your life. But I'll put my hand up and say that I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know exactly what's going to lead from one thing to the next. But underneath, so what allows you to kind of let go of that belief is trust, right? I was just sitting the other day and I was feeling really sick and things had been quite challenging for a bit. It was feeling like there's just too much going on around me while I was feeling sick, and it was just like, I just need to go sit in stillness for a bit. And then I just sat and everything just kind of opened up and released through going into what felt uncomfortable. And underneath that, there was just this kind of feeling of trust in that, like, I can always come back to knowing that I'm not in control. It can feel certainly like I am sometimes. So that's what I'm saying. It's not about bypassing that. Sometimes you need to make decisions. You need to deal with the nitty gritty human things. Like, that really was a theme for me, was to go more into the human world and figure things out. But it's a pendulum, right? So I have to swing back to that side of the spectrum of kind of letting go of this need to go on retreats and kind of deepen my awakening as my main goal, and just like, no, just let go, explore all the human stuff, right? Meet people, like fall in love, do this, do that, act like a normal human. But then I started getting caught up in story too much again. I could feel it, right? I was trying to, you hang out with certain people that live in a certain mental world, and that starts to rub off on you as well, where you're like, oh yeah, I need to kind of have it all figured out. And then that starts to get uncomfortable, right? Because it's not right for me. And, but it's a pendulum, right? Because in that space, it forced me to maybe put a little bit more focus on things I need to put focus on. And then it releases, or it gets too uncomfortable. basically. And then I'm like, okay, I just need to surrender. I just need to let go. I just need to sit in kind of release. And then it's feeling like, oh yeah, I honestly don't know what the next moment's going to bring. You just kind of flow with it, to sound cliche. You just go with the flow of what's happening, and somewhere you find the blockage of that kind of natural flow, and that blockage has to come up, right? That is the natural flow. And then sometimes that blockage is really fucking intense. I'm not gonna lie. I've had some like real mental breakdowns the last couple of weeks. But it's also knowing that there's like this, it's just like a release or something that has to happen, right? And maybe it's a pointer out of a way of living that's not kind of healthy. That's what I meant. Like I was really starting to struggle, mentally with certain things, and I was just feeling constantly overwhelmed. And that was a guide to come back more into an environment where you have some form of perceived stability, because sure, there's no stability entirely, but this is where I'm saying like both worlds are true in their own rights. Like the fact that reality is constantly shifting and there's no ground, and yet the fact that you're a human being who finds himself in this world with other human beings, and it's not like you want to become completely isolated. It's both, right? And there is harmony in both, because otherwise you're resisting something, right? So for me, it always comes back to, what am I avoiding facing? Hey, there's Luna. What am I avoiding? Is it a difficult conversation that I need to have? Is it a scary change that I need to make? You'll know, right? So that's if things are feeling really intense, really overwhelming. What do you need to change? And then go for a walk, go look outside, and realize that you have no fucking clue what's actually going on. Like honestly, I was walking on the beach, and when you really start to drop, okay, there's people coming home, I'm gonna have to end the call soon. When you really start to drop out of the thoughts, right, into direct experience, it's vastly mysterious. And to have access to both perspectives is the key. It's not to get fixated in one or the other, but in entirety, humanity is fixated in the one. So worth getting fixated in the awakening for a bit maybe, and then find the middle ground. All right, good luck.